Boruto Episode 5, The Mysterious Transfer Student. Now this episode I thought was okay. Honestly, I think it's probably my least favorite episode so far. And that's really because it focused so much on Shino, who, I don't mind Shino, I actually like Shino as a character. I kind of wish we did have more focus on him because all of his focus, like a lot of the characters in Naruto, the side characters really only get focus in filler stuff from like the first series, which is like just such a terrible time. Going through like those old fillers, but that's really where you get like extra stuff from them. Outside of like Rock Lee and Neji, a lot of the other side characters don't really get much time. And like, you know, we have the rescue arc is where we got to see a lot from Choji and from Kiba, and you know, Shikamaru, he's always had a nice decent amount of focus, but you know, I feel like they took this opportunity to kind of focus on Shino in this episode, and it was just okay to me. You know, we have Mitsuki coming in, which I was excited for that because it's like, okay, that means we're getting closer to the three-man squads, which means we're getting closer to the Chunin exams and basically going through Boruto the movie. And there's some stuff in there, which of course I won't spoil for anyone who may not have seen the movie just yet. But there's some stuff in there about Mitsuki and getting to see him use his abilities and things like that. Some of the stuff may be super obvious. If you know Naruto, then it should be real obvious for you. But, you know, he comes into things and it's like, okay, well, they kind of play up the idea that he seems to be able to see the same stuff as Boruto. And I was like, okay, that's very interesting. I didn't think that that would be a part of it. So he's able to see kind of the dark chakra that's taking people over. Shikadai is wondering like, oh, is he the one that's causing all this madness and stuff like that? Which I would assume is not the case, because why would he take down a guy that, you know, he caused to go on a rampage? It wouldn't really make much sense to me. But, you know, he comes in, he takes out the guy in the beginning of the episode, and then, you know, they kind of team up and everything to take out the guy who's, like, losing it because he's mad about the construction and everything. So I was like, alright, so he can see the same stuff as Boruto can. That's interesting. You know, they don't really go into any of the details or anything like that, but I thought that was interesting. And then the other part of Mitsuki really showing up is that not only is he super smart, he was able to figure out the plan or the mathematical equation that Shino put on the board, which Boruto understood the first one. And I mentioned this before, but it was really funny. They definitely did a very generic school thing where it's like, oh, you know, you got the answer, but do it the way I told you. It's like, but this way is more accurate and everything. It was just really funny. I was like, yep, that's school. You got it right, but do it the way I told you to do it or it's wrong. It's like, that's dumb. That's just a school thing. I was like, that's funny because that's school. That's living through school. It's like, do it my way or it's counted as wrong. But, you know, we see that Mitsuki is very smart. He's got a buttload of powers. It's very interesting. I was about to say something that was directly from the movie, but it was really interesting. He was like, yeah, I can do this. I got right on. He's got, like, lightning abilities. He was doing wind stuff. And I think those were his two things, was wind and lightning. And I was like, okay, that's very interesting. And considering his character, it makes me wonder exactly why it's those two powers. I have a very good reason, but once again, it would be considered spoilers. But I'm like, it's two very specific styles, and that's all I can really say about that. But it was cool seeing him use some of his abilities. He was going crazy on Iwabei, and when they went through the fight, he was about to like choke him to death. And then Boruto was like, "I don't like people like that." And he's like, "Oh, cool. I'll switch it up, and I'll be someone you do like." And he's talking about, you know, Boruto possibly being the sun to Mitsuki being the moon, which I highly recommend. I think I mentioned this before, but if you have not read the one-shot manga about Mitsuki, you should definitely do that now, you know, going forward, and that'll kind of give you some of the answers that I prefer not to spoil at this point. But it was very interesting. I was like, okay, I like seeing him come into the show. I like seeing him use his abilities, seeing this character instantaneously grow up as he's trying to become what the other characters want him to be, and they want him to be a decent person, specifically Boruto, because that's, you know, who he's going, you know, gravitating towards. So I like that side of it. And then, like I said, the other half of this episode was Shino as a teacher. And it just didn't really do much for me. And I know there's some stuff in Shippuden, actually, like, after they did the main story arc, and they have, like, those extra 10 filler episodes where everyone, you know, everyone's older, but for, like, they're older than Shippuden, but younger than current. They don't have the kids yet. And one of the things is that Shino wanted to become a teacher. I skipped over that Shippuden episode because I was kind of trying to catch up on everything. And going into this episode, it was like, okay, it focused a lot more on him than I was expecting. It led to some funny stuff, because honestly, the party becoming a disaster was my favorite part. because it was just super funny. And I was like, okay, knowing Shino, the reason all this stuff is moving around is because he has the bugs kind of jumping around inside of it and makes it look like the teddy bears are moving. And I was like, oh man, here we go. And that little girl, she squeezed the teddy bear, and I was like, it's about to get bad. And he's like, don't do that. And I don't know why. Maybe he just stopped focusing or something, because I was like, it didn't make sense for like all the bugs to come out. But bugs came out of every freaking thing. All the kids were freaking out and stuff. And he's like, oh man, this is not how it was supposed to work. And there's a kid like in the background, like over his right shoulder, on the left side of the screen. And there's just a kid like 20 feet in the air just being like waved around by bugs. And I was like, how did that even happen? So it was just really funny. And then I think it may have been Dinky actually, where he was like, man, I hate bugs. I want somebody to do something. And Mitsuki was like, anything. He was like, yeah, just get rid of them. He was like, okay. And then of course he just does like a crazy gust of wind and blows everything back. So that was also really funny, because then it cuts to like the construction workers, and they're freaking out like, holy crap, there's like basically a tornado coming right at us. So that was a really funny sequence of just the whole party falling apart and stuff. But really, Shino not being like a great teacher, or the kids not really listening to him as much or anything like that, it just didn't have like a huge impact to me. And he goes to talk to Kurenai, who looks totally different. It was weird seeing her. I was like, man, the other characters that look older, even though I guess technically she's the first character that we see, at least in the anime, of the actual adult characters who were adults. They're like regular Naruto and Shippuden. She's the first person we've seen in the anime, and she looks like way older. And it makes sense because she is way older. She's like 20 years older than when they're in Shippuden. I would assume it's about, somewhere close to 20 years at least. Well, no, not 20 years. That's way too much. Closer would be more like, maybe like 10 years, I guess, 10 to 12 years. So it's like, okay, I get that, but I felt like she looked super old compared to what she should have looked like. I'm like, man, they make her look like kind of ugly, and it was like, okay, this would be one thing, but she had like so many wrinkles, and like it was just like the way she looked. I was like, I feel like she looks like she's in her 60s or something, and I'm pretty sure that at this point she would be in her 40s, maybe going to late 50s, because I would assume that all the adults like Naruto and everybody else, I would assume they're in their 30s. And I always thought that the adults, because Kakashi is like the youngest, he's one of the youngest characters, and I think he was like 20 something in the original series. So then I'd say he was like 25, so he's 27 in Shippuden, and then you skip 20 years, or skip like 10 to 12 years. And it's like, okay, well, if he was 27 there, let's say he's getting into his 40s, they wouldn't look that old. And I was like, Kurenai wouldn't look this old. Like, she looked like she was legit in her like mid to late 50s. And that could be her age. I could be wrong and just don't know it. But I was like, man, I feel like she looks way older in this than she probably should, because, like, especially with how the other characters look, like, nobody really looks that old. Like, the people who were kids in the original Naruto series as adults, none of them really look old. Like, they all look like they're now currently in their 30s, which would put everyone else, the adults formerly, in, like, their late 50s, 40s or 50s. So I'm like, or late 40s, early 50s, and I was just like, man, she looks way older than that. Like, she's in like mid to late 50s instead of like early 40s, and she just looks totally different. And it was just really weird. I was like, this just looks and also with her being older, it just looked like nothing like her outside of the red eyes, which is really weird after so much of Shippuden with all the different like 100 million versions of Sharingan. It's weird to see anybody with red eyes now that doesn't have it. And I was like, oh yeah, I always thought that was unique with her character too. Kurenai always had like one of the coolest designs ever in the original series, to me at least. I always loved her costume, and her having like the red eyes was super unique because nobody else really had that until, Sharingan City came along. But it was just really weird looking at it, and I was just like, that just looks nothing like her. Like, even if she's older, I was like, I feel like there's still no semblance of the character in her younger form, outside of her having the red eyes. Like, I feel like she looked almost like a grandmother. She just didn't have gray hair. I was like, I feel like there's just so much off with that, because it just seemed weird. It just seemed so weird to me. But I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just me. I mean, maybe it is more time than I was thinking. Because like I said, going from Shippuden, they're in like 16, 17, stuff like that. And then this, even if you go from 17 to the characters being in their, I guess, early 30s, early to mid 30s. So I guess that would be 20 full years, if you go by that logic. So, I mean, I guess that does make a bit of sense, but once again, she'd be like early 50s, and I felt like that was like her looking like she was already like late 50s, early 60s sort of stuff. And I was like, I don't know, that's just me. Maybe I'm just nitpicking. It was just like, it just looked weird to me. That was just a weird thing. But she talks with Shino, because I went on a full rant about that. But she talks with Shino, and it's like, you can be the type of teacher you want to be. Everything can work out. You just gotta kind of do things your way, the way that you want to do them. You don't have to, she kind of jokes with him like, we all knew that you'd be a bad teacher and stuff, but it's like, it can be done. Like, it will work. You just kind of have to do it. And so he tries, and it works for a bit until, the crazy bug thing happens. And then he kind of gets super depressed about it and everything, and that allows for this random crazy creature thing to take over his body. So that sends him into this weird sort of rampage. It's not kind of a mild rampage. I guess that fits. It's Shino. So it sends him into this mild rampage where instead of going crazy, he sends a letter to Boruto, Shiganai, and honestly, I can't even remember. Maybe it was Iube. I can't even remember who the third kid was, if I'm being told. I don't think it was Mitsuki, so I think it was someone else, but I don't even remember who the third kid was. But it was Boruto and Shiganai and then somebody else. And so, Shino kind of comes out of the trees, and it's like, oh, they're going to fight. And of course, they give him like the Terminator eye and everything, which I actually kind of love. But, it goes into the end of this episode, which leads into like the crazy battle for the next episode with him actually going crazy. And maybe we'll get something out of that, outside of a cool fight. Because I always love seeing Shino fight. It's always very interesting and unique. And I'm very curious how this fight scene is going to play out with, these three young children going up against Shino, who is actually very strong. He's got bugs that can eat chakra. Like, that's a big deal, especially when going up against young children who don't have, like, that much chakra. I'm very curious how that's going to actually end up playing out. So I'm excited to see how they actually utilize their smarts to actually survive, which makes sense why Shiganai was actually there. Plus, it's always Boruto and Shiganai. They're like best friends at this point, which still makes it so weird. Like, you guys are just not going to be talking too much in the future. But, I'm excited to see what fight we get. And I doubt we'll get any answers in the next episode. I think that's the type of thing they're saving for, like a little bit further down the line. Once we hit like double-digit episodes, maybe we'll finally start getting answers as to what in the world this thing is, who's causing it, why it ties into Boruto's eye and stuff like that. Like, is it going to tie into, like, way into the future, with the crazy sequence that we got with him fighting this random person? Or is it just going to be, that's one of the things that Boruto can see, and, it's not actually related to whoever this mysterious person is in the future? That I don't know, and we'll have to just wait to get some answers, but I thought it was an okay episode. Like I said, mostly it was just, there are funny moments in it that I enjoyed. I didn't mind the action. We did get a really great fight scene. Mitsuki versus Iwabe, I actually did think was really freaking sweet. Like, he was so fast. I really loved that. Like, he basically teleported. Like, he was doing some, he was like Shisui. Like, he was really fast when they started the fight. Like, he just, like, vanished. And I was like, that was really sweet. I love the way they did that. He's sliding under Iwabe, and he's doing punches, and he did like a crazy high kick, and then he gets under him, and then he's like about to choke him to death, basically. And I was like, that was actually a cool fight scene. So I love actually getting to see him fight, so that I really enjoyed. But looking forward to, where we're headed in the series. This was just, honestly, it was like, we got some good stuff. It wasn't nearly as cool as I thought it was going to be with them finally introducing Mitsuki. And it was just like, it was kind of an okay episode for me personally. It was like, I just think this is like my least favorite so far, but it was still a decent episode. And it certainly gave me some good laughs, for sure. But I'm certainly excited for where we're headed with Shino being taken over and how that's going to affect the characters and stuff like that. It probably won't have like a grand effect or anything, and like I said, we probably won't get any answers, unfortunately. But I am actually still excited to see. We're going to get, hopefully, a really good fight, regardless of what happens in the rest of the episode. I like to think we're going to get a pretty cool fight sequence in the first part of the episode. And then, of course, they'll save them, and then it'll go back to just, normal Academy stuff. But it was a decent episode, just not my favorite. Definitely my least favorite out of the series so far. But I would love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I definitely want to know, what do you guys want to see from Mitsuki's character? Because one of the big things, like I said, about this episode is that I felt we didn't actually get to see enough of Mitsuki. They gave enough to, for people that don't already know about his character, they gave enough to be super vague. And it's like, oh, what's his deal? Who is he talking to with the snake thing? Once again, if you even remotely watch Naruto, you already know what the deal is. It's super obvious. But they do some good, vague stuff where it's like, oh, what's happening with him? And why is he talking about this? And why is he, who is it that he's interested in and stuff? So I was like, okay, that's decent enough, but I think most, like, anyone who's like a really big fan of the show has probably already seen the movie, probably read the one-shot manga for the character and everything like that. So it was like, there's almost no point in the mystery of doing it. But I'm sure there are some people who don't know. You know, there are tons of people, like when I read the manga currently, there are a million people that don't realize like the first 10, I think it's like the first, well, not 10, but the first couple of chapters, like the whole first 2 volumes of Boruto the manga, it's just Boruto the movie in manga form. And like a million people seem not to know that. Like they don't know what's going to happen next. It's like, this is based off a 2-year-old movie. And people, you know, people still haven't seen it. So there's still some big questions in there. But like I said, if you watch Naruto, even if you haven't read the manga, you don't go like super deep into it. If you watch the anime and you're currently watching Boruto, you can look at Mitsuki and be like, okay, that's obvious. You can tell what's happening there. So I won't give it away, but it's right there. It's so easy. But I do want to know what you guys want to see from his character, since we still really didn't get too much from him in this one. We got to see him use his powers a bit, which I thought was great. But other than that, you know, not really much about him. So I would love to know what you guys want to see from his character going forward. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.